Hello everyone, welcome to Youth Chat. I'm Yawen. So today we're going to discuss ASEAN Summit, as we know is also known as Association of Southeast Asian Nations Summit. It took place in Jakarta, Indonesia from September 5th to 7th. And today we're going to delve into more of the highlights of the summit, as well as topics that young people are interested in talking about, such as digital economy, tourism, as well as sustainable development. So first of all, ladies, how about you give a brief introduction of yourselves?
Hello there, I am Angie and I'm from Scotland and I'm a graphic design student in my 4th year.
Hello everyone, I'm Desca, I'm from Jakarta, Indonesia. I'm Chief of Bureau of Antara Indonesia National Agency here in Beijing. I just arrived in Beijing 15th August 2023, so this is like my third weeks in Beijing.
3 weeks. Welcome
Very
to
cool.
China. Yeah, hope you enjoy your trips here.
you.
Hey guys, I'm Zhao and I'm a reporter with CGTN as well. This is my first time actually doing a video podcast. Very cool. I like the giant microphone. I'm not gonna try to touch it though.
Well, so when we talk about ASEAN countries, so we think of, okay, they have a lot of great destinations to travel. Is there any specific country or places that you have been to before you'd like to share with us? Yeah, I know you have been to a lot of places in Southeast Asian nations.
I'm not gonna say a lot of, but I did go to Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, and also I was hoping to go to Indonesia as well. I heard it's a super beautiful country. I'm gonna let you talk about Indonesia.
Please go.
And I have to say I love them so much, especially Thailand.
Yeah.
You know, everything. Have you guys ever been to Thailand?
I've been to Phuket,
Okay,
like
Phuket, yes.
for like only 3 days trip. It
It's
was
a
really
very-
quick.
Do you know Phuket? It's a
I've heard of Phuket.
yeah, it's a very famous tourism spot there. I've been to Phuket and also the capital.
Bangkok.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. That's a quiz. Yes, Bangkok and also several other cities there. I think it's. I love the food there. First off,
Yeah.
I love all the tropical scenes there. They have lots of great beaches and lots of places for you to have fun, like diving, scuba
Yeah,
diving.
scuba diving.
You can also do surfing. They have like all the motorcycles there as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
Yes, water motorcycles, super cool. And I just really like the vibes there. Everyone is having fun, and a lot of people do like work. Because during the pandemic, you have that kind of work at home situation, and a lot of people choose to work there instead
Yeah.
of working at home. So
So it's
just
a great place for people can enjoy their, can balance their work and life.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And the price there is not so expensive.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Phuket is a little bit more expensive than other places, but in general, I think Thailand is a fair place to stay. Yeah.
So Desca, since you're from Indonesia, could you share with us some of the like beautiful destinations for tourists who want to go there and travel?
Yeah, actually a lot of people in this world know more about Bali than Indonesia. Bali is like, you've been to Bali before?
I have not yet, but I've heard of Bali. That's the first thing I think of Indonesia.
Yeah, same, yes.
Yeah, because Bali is like tourism things of Indonesia. It's like the face of Indonesia tourism.
Yeah.
But actually there's a lot of places just like Bali, but maybe it's more like not so touristy place. I was born in Jakarta, but actually I'm from North Sumatra. It's different island from Jakarta and also Bali because Indonesia is the island country. So North Sumatra have a lake named Toba Lake, and that's the biggest lake in the Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
And also there's a island at the core of the lake called Samosir Island. So it's like a very beautiful island and beautiful lake, and also has a history. But if you like the scuba diving, I will suggest you to go to the East Nusa Tenggara or West Nusa Tenggara. If you heard about the Labuan Bajo or like Mandalika place, it's a lot of beaches there. You can go to scuba diving or just
Paddling
go swimming or just
all kinds of like activities you
Right.
can do in the ocean.
relax and pause the time. So it's about you. It's your pace and it's your vacation. Just go there.
Sounds
Tell us one of your
awesome.
favorite food in
My
Indonesia.
favorite food in Indonesia, there's like kind of I will tell it in bahasa Indonesia.
Yeah.
It's named soto.
Soto.
Soto it's like soup.
By its name, I feel like it's a dessert.
So is that soup?
This soup, but in every places in different province and different islands have that kind of soto. In Jakarta, there is soto babat meat, but it's for the inside part of the beef. There's other soto again in Central Java, in West Java, in East Java, and also there's another part in Sulawesi Island and also Sumatra Island. But it's the principle of soto is same with the soup, but with different ingredients.
Well, talk about cuisines. How about your experience of trying Chinese food here?
Oh, it's such a huge topic, food here. It's so endless. Because it's quite different from the cuisine in UK.
Yeah.
Because I think UK it's more very starch, very pastry based. But here's a lot more like stir fried, the vegetables, especially the balsas here. They're phenomenal. I actually just tried balsas for the first time like last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
What's the stuffing inside?
We had a pork one,
Okay.
which is quite different for me because I'm not used to eating pork until I've like came over here. Yeah.
Do you eat it with something like vinegar or like soy sauce?
I actually ate it by itself. It was good enough.
Yeah.
The flavor.
I know, like some people don't like the ingredients. They just like to eat it by itself. You should try. Have you ever tried it?
Not it.
Baozi. You should try. It's like I say like a bigger version of dumplings. Yeah. They have like it's in this shape, and then like you can either they're meat ones or veggie ones. Yeah.
When we're talking about the travel destinations in Bali, Indonesia, we know a few months ago, I know it's not a positive side, it's kind of sad story. Like there's a couple. The girl, she's only 22 years old, and her boyfriend's 25. They got murdered at a hotel when they were traveling to Bali. Local police officers and government have been doing investigation on this and trying to bring justice to the victims. But how has that affected or impacted the local tourism industry?
First, I feel sorry for the victims, of course. But yes, many tourism spots or resorts after the pandemic era, Bali is like trying to
Welcome as many tourists as possible.
A lot of people come, local tourists and also international tourists. So a lot of hotel see that, hey, this is our change after 3 years break. So maybe they lost their standard of safety. So it become like kind of that situation that you said before, and I feel sorry for that. Actually, it become also the new beginning for Bali and other tourism era. Before the pandemic, the tourists only stay for 3 or 4 days, but now there is a long shot of tourists who stay more time there, so they need maybe to adjust what they have to do there for the long-term tourists. And actually for the safety, I think in Bali there is a police station just like we have here in Beijing, but also there is traditional security named pecalang. It's like what I can say it's like the person who get the responsibility to keep the security in their surrounding, but not from the government. It's from the people themselves.
It's like neighborhood watch.
Do they volunteer to do that?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so it's a volunteering job.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's like more in Indonesia we call it like gotong royong, because it's like it's our job together to take care the neighborhood. If China has a lot of CCTV,
We have
like
maybe
the-
similar
coming
ones.
together.
Chaoyangdama, I think, is
Oh,
what.
yeah.
we have similar
have
ones,
this-
and like a lot of ants, like they're getting old, they're not like doing any jobs, and like they just volunteer to stand on the subways or like remind you which directions you should go.
I
and they,
noticed at 6 o'clock
Yes.
when all the aunties at the traffic
Right.
lights.
Yeah.
yeah, we call them Chaoyang. Like Chaoyang is a
Chaoyang.
district
It's
of
district, yeah.
China, and then like of Beijing, and then like Dama is essentially like a
Auntie.
yeah, like
It's
a cute
like-
version of saying aunties, and then like they call themselves Chaoyang aunties.
Chaoyang.
Like they're
But-
there to help. You
Yeah,
know?
and not only for traffic guiding, but also they will pay attention, like neighborhood watch you just mentioned. They'll pay attention if they're, there is the star in Beijing.
Yeah.
And he was like committed some illegal activities, and his neighbor around surrounding him reported that to police officers, and he got caught. Yeah, he got arrested. So I think that's our Chinese version of neighborhood watch.
Yes. And like all the aunties are so nice. Like sometimes when you go to her, like ask questions, they'd be like, "Have you eaten dinner?" And I was like,
Yes, it's so
"Oh,
caring."
okay, yes, they care about you." Yeah, I think a very Chinese one to show how welcoming they are. Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you have observed, like before you came here, that's your impression on China, but after you got here, it's like, wow, that's different than what I thought of this country.
I think Chinese people is not new for the Indonesian because Chinese and Indonesia have a long of relation. But because this is my first time in Beijing, before I arrive here, I think Beijing is a big city and China is a big country. But in fact, Beijing is very big city and China is very giant country. So I went to Gansu province for a week, and because there's a lot of deserts there, so we went around the cities around the desert. I even don't know the desert name because it's very many of deserts, but there's different kind of deserts like rocks and sands, but very beautiful. And yes, I just think that China is like in Beijing or Shanghai,
But actually, there are a lot more to explore.
But a lot of like desert things and very rich of the historical stories. Like it's just like very surprising for me.
So how about you, Angie?
Where to begin with. My first impressions. Before I came here, it was quite an unknown place for me. Just from what you hear in the news, it can be kind of like worrisome, but it's the complete opposite once I arrived here. I noticed like the safety here, that's like the first thing. I remember speaking about this when I was walking out the street at night. I seen an old lady like on the bus stop, knocked out, sleeping, with all of her stuff around her. I was just so like shocked and then sort of impressed by that. So it's like,
It's not gonna happen somewhere.
that would never happen in Glasgow at all.
So it's relatively safe. That's how
Yeah.
I felt like when I firstly moved back to Beijing. That was in 2017. Yeah, like I got out of work. That was like almost midnight, and because I rent a place nearby where I work, so I just walk home and feel so safe. No one on the streets, but still you don't have this kind of like worrisome. But I would not do that when I was studying overseas. So that's something I have heard a lot from my foreign friends. They would tell me they feel safe walking on streets and they don't feel worried of being harassed or someone whisper to them when they're like dressing miniskirts. Do you have the similar feeling?
Well, like I still work overnight sometimes, and like the place I work is actually around the central business area in Beijing. So like we see a lot of people actually, contrary to what you said there's no one around you, but like a lot of people are getting home really late. So like I'm not feeling like very, because I don't know.
You feel you're getting preyed on.
No. But yeah, I think, it's a really safe place. and like you can find food always,
yeah.
even at
Any
midnight.
time of the day. So shocked by
I
that.
know. So many restaurants open 24/7.
I remember when I came back from Chongqing back to Guangzhou, we didn't arrive
Oh my
till...
gosh, you just said 2 cities with the best food in this country.
Yes. We arrived like 3 in the morning, and in our local area, there was like a noodle stand just still there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, that I would never see that
Somewhere
anywhere
else.
else.
Yeah. Well, we've been talking about like the cultural differences, the food, the beautiful destination for travels, and now we know during this year's ASEAN Summit, one of the crucial matters is about economic development, and in particular the digital economy. So I'd like to hear about so far, like what's your, especially to our foreign friends, what's your observation on China's digital economy's development? And also, like, do you see any potential opportunities in the future between China and ASEAN countries to cooperate in this field?
I noticed there's been a lot of like a recurrence of like YouTubers coming over, like doing like vlogs here, and like showing like the culture.
Yeah.
So I noticed a lot of like people moving over to do that. So that's what I've seen
Yeah.
quite
like
often.
influencers.
Yeah, influencers.
Yeah, they're from other countries, but they're here to, feature their stories in China
Yes.
and tell the stories of China to overseas audiences. I see.
Yes.
So, Desca, how about you?
When I arrived China, my friend said that there's 2 app you have to install in your phone, WeChat and Alipay, or else you can go to anywhere. So I installed it, and in one phone, I can go anywhere and still alive until now. So yeah, I think that's kind of very high technology and very
Convenient.
Yeah, it's so convenient. I would recommend you to download another app. It's Didi. I'm not trying to promote that company here, but it's very convenient. That's like a Uber overseas.
And I was going to say Redbook is really good for like finding out
Redbook.
places.
Yeah.
I know, that's my
I'm
favorite app.
obsessed.
I know, yes.
Redbook.
What for?
It's a
It's
Chinese
like
version of Instagram.
It's like Pinterest as well. Have you
Yeah,
ever used
Pinterest,
it?
yeah,
a combination of
Instagram
Pinterest.
all together.
Yeah.
Like you share
okay,
like
okay.
makeup, lifestyle, like all the good food and like
Yeah.
stuff like
Everything.
that. Yeah. And like we're talking about Alipay and WeChat Pay, and I was in Japan this late June. I was in Japan, and I was so surprised because you can pay with Alipay almost everywhere.
Oh, really?
I think they have just expanded services to Southeast Asian countries as well, and a lot of places in the US and the UK as well. If I got it right?
Yes, I used to work in a luxury store in Glasgow. We sent WeChat Pay in Ali.
You do?
Yeah, because Chinese are like one of the biggest customers there. Remember we had a customer who spent like 20k
Oh, wow.
on one makeup table. They took the whole lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's why you need Alipay and WeChat Pay. It's just
Yeah.
easier for people to pay, you know?
Yeah.
And like these 2 major apps actually just expanded their services because a lot of foreigners, they first came to China was just a foreign card, right? And they just expand their services by accepting foreign cards right now.
Yeah.
So in the past, you can only use, I think Chinese mainland
banks.
bank cards.
Yeah.
Right now, you can use like whatever bank cards you have, even it's registered overseas.
That's so convenient.
It's been such a lifesaver because other times I've came over before that, it was a pain.
Yeah, especially we have so many athletes coming here in China with the Chengdu World University Game and also the upcoming Asian Games. So
It says a lot because there's a demand then. There's a lot of foreigners coming in now.
Right.
So it's a good sign.
And also, I think with the digital, I would say this is, of course, the part of the digital economy in the format of Alipay or WeChat Pay, it reduced the criminal rates somehow, especially like we no longer see thieves, like they're stealing your wallets or other like cash because we no longer carry one or bank card, but they're kind of transforming to the e-commerce criminal activities.
right.
Yeah.
I think like whenever there's something developed so fast, things happen.
They'll catch up.
Yeah. You don't carry cash, but at the same time, AI is developing so fast.
Well, let's move on to another subject. It's also very important during ASEAN this year is green and sustainable development. Yeah, I noticed that earlier at the ASEAN Plus 3 summit with China, Japan, and South Korea, So Indonesian President Widodo said that the development of green economy could be one of the priorities of cooperation between ASEAN and the three countries in the future. Angie, this is a question for you. I'll go to you first. I know even though you're from UK, you're studying graphic design,
Yes.
and I remember you mentioned something like you have noticed that there's the designer in I'm not sure from China or from other countries. They're trying to input this sustainable or carbon neutrality ideas into
Yes.
their design, into their work. Could you share with us more
There's been a lot
about
of
it?
companies such as like Dell, like they manufacture like a lot of the packaging from China. I noticed there's a change of using like mushrooms. Like you can use mushrooms into packaging, which is like biodegradable.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
that's so cool.
that's another thing. We'll also during class we always look at Asia quite a lot, especially with the supermarkets, like the wet markets, because we have noticed it's all freshly out there, not packaged. So that does help a lot because that helps with like consumerism, like the waste, and also not have all these individually like packaged
Yeah, that's the
fruits and
difference.
vegetables. That's
Yeah.
which I've noticed a lot during my research during class times. Yeah.
Cool.
And also I know some like in Asia they've got like buildings, we've got like nature, like the grass growing over it, letting like the ecosystems, like like the nature growing on the buildings.
Oh,
It's quite
okay.
cool.
Yeah. So Desca, from your perspective, like based on your observation, and so in this field, like the sustainable and the green development, do you have anything to share with us?
Well, the interesting part is before, like 2 or 3 weeks before the ASEAN Summit and also East Asian Summit, Jakarta as the host of summit was crowned as the most polluted capital city in the world in the August. The sky is very gray, and because it's like I don't know, the main source of the pollution, the air pollution, maybe because of the coal fire plant around Jakarta. There's dozens of the coal power plant, but also there's a lot of vehicles still using the fuel, not the electrical vehicle. So the government asked for the office to do remote or hybrid works, or maybe remote works, and also for the schools. But many people against it because it's like not really to solve the problems actually.
From
but
the root.
yeah. But from my perspective, many younger generation is more aware about the environmental things. They try to have a more electrical vehicle, and also maybe another things to reduce recycle and something like that. I mean, it's not like the government asked them to do that, but that's awareness just from the bottom.
What Desca just said remind me of the case here in Beijing, because she actually mentioned maybe 10 years ago or even way back, like Beijing has not very as blue, clear sky as today. The air pollution was kind of serious. So yes, take the example of the Shougang Park. I'm not sure if you guys have been there. Like back in 1919, actually, it has a history of like producing all of this industrial. It's been an industrial park since then, and it has burning a lot of fossil fuels to support the development of the city. And of course, sometimes it comes with the price. And then in the past few decades, the government has realized that this issue, especially China, got the chairmanship to host the Olympics. Now, if you go there, it becomes a demonstration to show how the city has been transformed from heavily relies on burning fossil fuels to, I would say, clean energy. And they're a part of that. They moved the industrial park to other cities, but in the meantime, they're transforming from more greener and more sustainable model of development. Actually, talking about environmental protection, I bet this is the news we all have observed and heard. Even some of us were shocked about. So it's It's about Japan decided to dump its nuclear contaminated water into the Pacific Ocean. It's been announced for a year or two, but the Japanese government decided to do it starting in August. And they decide to dump like over thousands of tons of nuclear contaminated water into the sea lasting for 30 years. What's your impression of the entire incident? Zhao, would you like to jump in first?
I was in Japan late June. I was really surprised by their decision because Japan is known for a country of, they have all those great technologies and they're like super clean country. I don't know why they decided to do that. And we see widespread protest from Asian countries and also from the outside world as well. I think China protested a few times to the Japanese government as well, other countries too. Of course, we see that UN nuclear watchdog IAEA actually said the effect could be negligible. But we're talking about you deliberately dumping some nuclear contaminated waste into ocean. Like, how is that possible that it has absolutely no effect into the ocean, into human activities? Like, we're talking about deliberately dumping all those into the nature, it's Mother Nature.
I feel like it's quite evil in a way doing that. And it's like very inconsiderate of like the other countries.
Yes, especially Pacific Ocean. We know that there are so many island countries nearby, right? Tahiti, Indonesia
Fiji.
too. Yes, they're
They relies on the ocean mother.
Right, and also whenever sea level rises, there's potential risk that the country could possibly disappear. We're talking about the life of a country and like millions of people living on there. And also they've been suffering because of climate change and also all those biodiversity sufferings over the past years. And right now you're talking about dumping all those nuclear wastewater into the ocean, like.
On Japanese government's defense, they said it's because it's safe, it's clear, and the Japanese government officials are even drinking a cup of the water they claimed that was from the ocean, and they're eating the sashimi from the fish being hunted from the contaminated water. There's something I noticed is that you can tell how the Western media has been portraying the whole incident differently. Because so far we have noticed that in the Western media, there remains deathly silence. Yeah, they even use the term, here I write it down, they use the term like treated radioactive water or treated wastewater. They're not even using the term like nuclear contaminated water because that's two different concepts we're talking about.
Play it down.
Yeah. So I just find it very ironic of how the media in the global stage, from one hand, they're kind of criticizing or judging China for environmental issues, but on the other hand, they behave so differently when it comes to Japan.
Sometimes it gets like glorified, like Japan, like they can do no wrong type of viewing.
Is that how people from like maybe UK think
of? Because every time like I've got some friends who go to Japan, so my class, oh, you going to Japan? It's like, that's awesome, anime and like that. When I said got China, silence.
That's just how.
Because I have noticed on Instagram, it's all about like China is upset because of Japan like putting the water in and making it like a China issue, but it isn't. They're not showing like Korea or the neighboring countries like Fuji or even the locals in Japan that are upset protesting. None of that at all.
Yeah, they've been just reporting on how China has been banning Japanese seafoods from importing to the country, but there's the reason for it.
Yeah.
Right? Just like what Chinese government is doing, just purely protecting its people, or that represents the voice of the people. The reason why I brought this up because we talk about the environmental protection, and the Japanese government actually was going to talk about this to clarify their position at the G20 summit. So another very interesting topic I personally feel very interesting is during the G20 summit, India says it wants to change its name from India to Bharat. Yeah. So the country says this is an effort to break with its colonial heritage. What's your guys' initial reaction when you firstly heard about the news?
I was really surprised because that word was actually pretty new to me. I don't know if it's new to you guys. So I went to a talk with one of my Indian friend, and it's like it's a day-to-day word that they use every day. So like in India, they pretty much call themselves people of Bharat as well, because it's like an Indian word. It's actually dated back to ancient Hindu scriptures. So it's it's kind of a legit name for the Indians. It's just not as international because we don't call them Bharat. It's kind of like a very local within India. I was kind of surprised of the decision because a country's name is very like everybody know you by your name.
It's very ingrained.
Right. Yeah. And then right, I think there's some politics issue behind that. Yeah, and obviously we see that the opposition party of India is naming itself India Party. So probably they want to differentiate from their opposition party because they have presidential election in the next year. So there's probably
that's true. I look it up. It says the name means light and fire. Yes, they've been calling themselves that name in their daily lives for years. And India is the name that when they were given during the colonial era.
But I think it's good to always kind of remember your legacy. It's Hindu, ancient Hindu scriptures. So if it's if it's really history or the historical culture of the Indian people, they should probably keep the name. But I don't know what the decision that might be.
Got maybe like a slight input to this. I think because India's got like a past of being colonised like by the British. It sounds like they want to own back their identity. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do feel you about this because I think recently, like from maybe it's been a while for the past few years, like developing countries has been, I'll say, have this awareness of they want to build a different or a new global order, regardless that's in economic or that's in trade or that's in a lot of stuff. And when it comes to, you have to have a voice in the international affairs. Maybe like from my perspective, maybe that's how Indian government wants to send out the message there. They want to remind like where they are from and who they used to be. With that, we're going to wrap up this edition of Youth Talk, and that has been a great discussion with all of you. We talk about like from ASEAN to G20, covering like sustainable development, the digital economy, as well as all the great stuff, the great food, the local cuisines in Southeast Asian countries, as well as the travel destinations. Indeed, a pleasure speaking with you all. Thank you so much for being here today, and we'd love to have you coming back in the future.
Thank you so much. We had so much fun. Yeah.
Thank you.